Okay. All right. So, is what I was about to say that I think that it is incorrect the way that Western people look at Buddhism and meditation, or in the sense of Western idea of Buddhism, is what they call meditation, and what they mean is the image that they create, just like you do, of either one or two or a whole group of people sitting on the floor, many and often dressed in white, all facing in rows and columns in a certain order in a meditation hall, all sitting there, each one of them pretending that they're the only one in the hall.
Sounds about right.
hmm That's what we have the idea of meditation. And furthermore, the idea then of meditation is going to be that the people are doing this in the hopes of getting some benefit. All right? That's very Western. The whole idea of getting some future benefit. This is why they're struggling. Especially the retreats have gotten to the point of, oh, well, we want you to really look at your mind. Therefore, everything that you have been doing to do your time structuring, including reading Dhamma books, reading whatever, cell phone, laptop, notepad and paper, and everything is given to the, they don't confiscate anything, but you turn things in and you get your name in the sticker and all of this. So um, when when this is done, people don't know how to handle themselves. That's way too much. Most people don't go in and just start enjoying or taking a break. And so the whole idea of the Western meditation retreats puts people in a position so that they can't practice correctly. It's like you burden them down with too many rules and too much stuff to do for too long a period of time, and wow, do people get miserable. I know I've done so many of those retreats. I think by now I've actually done more by teaching them than I did by doing them. But at one time I was kind of a record holder for doing them. Because I stayed with Goenka for about 3 years, and I took every opportunity. Some of them we were volunteers, but that's the same thing as doing the retreat. Except that then you have to also listen to other people's stuff.
Uh-huh.
So a much better way of looking at it is that we need to practice it so that we're getting immediate benefit, which means that we don't have to worry about I'm starved for sensory awareness. You can have whatever sensory awareness that you want. The whole point is, can you have that sensory awareness and feel good? Actually, there's kind of two ways of raising kids. And one of the suttas, the Buddha goes into great detail about basically in those days, boys will be boys in the sense that the young men were allowed to chase their desires sort of before they came home and did what dad told them to do again. Prodigal son, all of that kind of stuff that we're talking about, okay? But in our society, we don't have that. That we put our kids to work called school, and that we join that economy and the competition that goes with that from childhood. And so when people get into a meditation retreat, guess what? They continue that same mentality, that same competitiveness, that same desire for goals and whatnot like that, and very few of them ever come to a retreat with the idea, hey, I'm going to take a week off. I got nothing to do. I'm just going to hang out. And sometimes I'll hang out in the hall, and sometimes I'll hang out walking, and sometimes I'm going to hang out in the room here, and everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. But very few people go into a retreat with that mentality. They go into it like it's going to be a boot camp. And guess what? It winds up being just that for them.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is that you don't have to go to the retreat to get this kind of benefit out of it. This is why, uh, actually, through conversations with Ajahn, we tend to say Dhamma teacher rather than meditation teacher. And we always generally talk about Anapanasati. Now, I just read recently in one of my books from Bhikkhu Buddhaddasa, where Bhikkhu Buddhaddasa says there was only one kind of meditation that the Buddha taught. He didn't teach a whole bunch of them. He didn't have a Vipassana. He didn't have a Goenka retreat. He didn't have any of that structure or anything like that. And he only taught one kind, one thing, and that was Anapanasati. But if you look at the way Anapanasati is structured in the suttas, you see that it fits precisely in with the Eightfold Path. That Anapanasati is the way to develop the skills of the Eightfold Noble Path. That's an important point for the students to understand, that that's why this is the only teaching that the Buddha gave about anything that has anything to do with meditation. All right. Now, one of the things that the Buddha is looking for in this is what is commonly referred to as first jhana, and yet everybody's got a different idea of what is first jhana. And nobody knows quite for sure, and people on Reddit are asking, hey, I did this, that, and the other thing. Was I in first jhana? You know, these kind of things, right? And in fact, the first jhana is actually easy to do if you actually feel like that what you're saying is correct. When you say everything is going to be all right, that's first jhana. That's all there is to it. But getting oneself into that beautiful state of everything's just going to be all right, because it's got all the components of jhana. Here are those components. Number one is that this idea, this nurturing, beautiful, everything's easy peasy and good to go, is wholesome thoughts, not hindering unwholesome thoughts. This is not hindrance. This is not everything is all right. It's a relaxation, not a restlessness. It's not a boredom. It's not doubtful. Everything's going to be all right is deep knowledge. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about. I feel really good inside. Uh-huh. Not only that, but it's just the opposite of dukkha. What, me worry? That's a quote from Alfred E. Newman, you know? What, me worry? Do you know Alfred E. Newman?
No, I don't.
He was the mascot of Mad Magazine for many years back in the 1960s. Spy versus spy and all of that kind of stuff. Okay.
No, I.
But his catchphrase, his motto, or his mantra was, what? Me worry? And they had a kind of a Tom Sawyer image.
The cool guy.
Cool young man. Easy to manipulate anybody. So, This is the kind of attitude that we need to get where we feel secure and confident that everything is all right. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's fine. You know why? Because I can see it that way and I've got the skills to keep it that way. That's the right attitude of part of the Eightfold Noble Path. The Buddha was a lion. But it's not the kind of lion that's out there roaring because something's wrong. No. It's the kind of lion that purrs because everything's going to be all right. Now, this is Anapanasati, and it is not anything like meditation. You see, the people who are doing meditation, they want to go really deep, deep in meditation. Go down there where the really deep dukkha is and stir around in that stuff and get that hogwash, or hogwash, not hogwash, that hog mud all over your body, right? That's how
Yeah.
they think meditation is, right? Oh
Going
no,
hard.
you're going full hog after it, right? Looking for something in there. They're going to they with all of that hogwash. There's bound to be a pig in there someplace. Or
Mm-hmm.
like going through the horse shit. There's bound to be a pony in there someplace.
Yeah.
Generally not. Ponies don't hang out in pony shit. They're smarter than humans.
I remember that joke. That was great.
So we have to get these hindrances out of the mind and get ourselves into a state of sabai, into a state of sukha, being free from dissatisfactions. With that confidence that everything's going to be all right. And so now we're building jhana factors. And not only that, but the next thing is that we have um, applied and sustained speech in the sense that we can get on a topic and stay on it. And we can get to develop that. It looks like a good memory because, in fact, Sati is memory, to remember to keep looking at what you're reading rather than thinking about something else, pretending that you're reading because you're not absorbing it. If you actually pull it in, you will remember it. That's what Sati is really all about. And so we really have to keep track. And that keeping track is called sustained thought, to be able to keep it. And in this case, keep it wholesome, keep it on track. So, in dealing with people, what we learn to do then is actually we can use ordinary language and say, pay attention to what they're saying. Most people, when two people are in a conversation, they're competing with each other for airtime.
Yeah.
Rather than really responding and giving some and being in real communication. All right. That's the metta that is also the bonding. And when you're bonding with someone, when you're doing that, you're actually paying attention to them. You're looking at them and you're listening to what they have to say. And you're getting a good load out of what it is. All right? So that is actually a quality of first jhana, is to be able to look and pay attention and to stay on it. And we practice that by staying on the breath. To keep remembering to take those long, deep breaths. It's not that, oh, I'm going to think about the breathing and not change it. No, I'm actually, while I'm talking, I work with the breath. And now I'll breathe in. And so thinking about the breath while we're talking is actually very good.
Really?
So that, yeah, so that we start noticing how long. I mean, that opera singers do this all the time.
Hmm.
Musicians, we train to have a long out breath so that you can sustain a note. or play a passage without having to take a breath mark. And so this is part of the mindfulness, of bringing us back to the here now over and over and over and over again. Why? Well, for one thing, so that while we're getting the body oxygenated, the mind is bright. The mind's healthy when it's up and alert. So this is the way that we begin to look at practice, because this can be done at any time. Doesn't have to be squatting on the floor, but it actually is a good idea to do just that. I think that the main reason why the Buddha was talking about going to a hut or to a pile of straw or to under a tree and to sit cross-legged and upright, and Bhikkhu Buddhaddasa verifies it, it's because it's a comfortable way of sitting if you're sitting on the ground. Westerners wouldn't dare sit on the ground, except when they're at the beach or other special occasions, and then they don't even know how to do it because they do it so rarely.
Ain't that the truth?
Here in Thailand, in fact, the last time it happened was December the 4th with Kitty's birthday. There was about 35 people. And some of them were on Thailand. For some reason, they have gotten used to having great big tables, big flat tables. Can also double as a bed, a double bed, but that's a joke. But here we have five or six people sitting on this thing upright. Many of them in lotus posture. Half of them are in other postures. Some of them have their legs back in ways that I can't even sit. And they've been sitting on the floor like that. The rest of them are all on the floor, actually sitting on the concrete. And that was okay. Nobody needed to have cushions and pads or anything like that. That's just part of the culture here in Thailand. And so when the Thai people walk into the meditation hall and sitting on the floor, for them it's no big deal. For the Westerner, they think that it's an endurance thing, that it's a no pain, no gain situation.
Yeah.
And so they have competitions about who can get their knees down to the floor sooner. And how can I do it? The answer is well, you tightened yourself up. Now all you have to do is just loosen yourself out. And let gravity pull the knees down.
Yes.
That the right thing to do is to get your tailbone elevated so that the knees can finally relax. But it's not a goal. Let the knees relax and let them enjoy the fact that they've got the goal met. That you don't have to do anything. Not your business. Just your knees. All right, so this is why we're saying back to if the knees are still elevated, that's all right. Everything's fine. Got no worries. It's easy.
Yeah.
The whole idea is to sit comfortably. And when you actually are comfortable and can sustain that without dropping into, oh, well, I got to go do this or something else is happening, or I've got to write that email, or maybe I want to quit my job and come to live in Thailand and do this all the time. And well, you're not even doing what you want to do all the time. You're sitting here thinking about doing it some other time.
Yeah.
And these are all hindrances, and the way that we can guess that they're hindrances is because they're talking about the future and talking about the past. And wholesome thoughts are generally about what's happening right now. Like everything's fine. Everything is good. Wow, what a marvelous day. Little songs, we got bunches of them. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay.
It feels like when I do that, it's disingenuine, though. You know?
Well, that's the whole point is that you've got to make it genuine. You've got to be that little kid getting a mantra for the first time, that it actually means something.
Uh-huh.
You got to let it be real.
How do you let it be?
Because all you have to do is stop criticizing it and actually believe that, yeah, everything really is okay. I mean, right now, look at you right now. Everything is fine.
Things okay.
Everything really is okay.
Yeah.
Right now, you got no worries. You don't have to be squatting on the floor and in deep meditation or anything to say it. You can just sit here with me and we can talk and converse, because that's part of first jhana, is to be able to talk about this stuff. That's where we use the mantra, is in first jhana. Everything's going to be fine.
That was a good moment.
And I've started taking this approach with students, because giving them didactic information. I mean, I haven't said anything new to you today.
You said
But what I have been doing is as a hypnotic induction with you just for the past 5 minutes. By repeating that word over and over again, everything's going to be fine. And you're beginning to buy it now.
I am.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can, in fact, feel good right now. You don't have to feel like you need something from me, because you don't need anything. We're just enjoying each other's company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's important for me to hear that. So I enjoy hearing it, because everything that I mean, you get it. Like, everything that we know is like, it's not okay, right? And
our culture teaches us it's not okay.
Right. Yes. Very much.
When a child is learning to write, the scrawls that he makes with the backwards R's and the letters go whompage on, the whole thing goes up in the air and all of that. I know, I've got an 8-year-old, so I know how the process goes about her learning to write, okay? Yeah. And we criticize that poor child every step of the way.
Right.
And that child picks up that criticism and carries it away. And lives her life by that criticism. That we're critical of each other. We're critical of ourselves. Everything is not all right. Everything needs to be fixed. Everything is broken. And if we didn't fix everything, we wouldn't have such a marvelous society that we've got.
Yeah.
Guess what? We don't need a marvelous society. All we need is a tree to squat under. A nice little paradise with a little porch to sit on, and that's all we need. Everything's all right. Everything's fine. And all of the teachings of the Buddha is all just this. But I picked up something from Ajahn Po, and I picked up something from Bhikkhu Buddhaddasa. You know what it was? Joy. And joy is not printed in books. Well, not often. It's even hard to pick up Bhikkhu Buddhadasa's joy in his books.
How long did it take you to do that?
Pardon?
How long did it take you to do that?
How long?
How long did it take? I guess that's not the right phrasing of the question. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, it seems like for a lot of people, you reach a certain level of like either maturity, age, or like stage in your practice where you get to the point where something seems to happen where you understand things in a different light. You hear the same thing over and over again, and for whatever reason, that time it clicked more than it did the other times.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the job of the teacher, is to find a way to say it so that it
Yeah.
finally clicks,
Yeah.
without it taking years and years and years of hard, strenuous practice.
See, I feel like for me, I've had those. The first time I talked to you, I remember I went on for like a year, and maybe I was too young, or maybe I just wasn't doing it in the right way. It's definitely what it was, but I feel like I just spun my wheels for so long. You know what I mean?
You ain't got nothing on me, boy. I got scars I can't even show you.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
I'm
Yeah.
doing the Jaws movie right now. You remember the Jaws movie, the night before the shark ate
Yeah.
everybody? Right.
Oh,
It's when they're comparing scars. Right, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So uh everybody's like that though. Everybody feels like they're on that boat the
Mm-hmm.
night before the shark. All of us comparing scars.
Mm-hmm.
That's the competition. My scar is bigger than your scar. You ain't seen nothing. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. So this is what we need to do, is to remember to break all of that stuff out. And so that your practice is not reserved to a sitting time or posture. But the Buddha does talk about the value of seclusion, to get away from other people and stay away from other people as much as you can, so that you can take the opportunity to gladden your mind without any more interference than you're already giving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That that's the whole idea of getting away from the world, is basically is to figure out that when you did get away from the world, you didn't. You brought it with you.
Yeah.
And so now there's a second level of task to get rid of the world, to get out of the world.
Yeah.
And where is that place that's out of this world? Is everything's fine, everything's all right. The world is really messed up. If you don't believe me, ask anyone out there in that world. They'll tell you how messed up it is.
Yeah.
And we need to seclude ourselves from that world, including secluding ourselves from our own mental world that's all messed up, that needs to be fixed, job to be done, groceries to bring in, cotton to pick. Well, maybe not this month, but you know where I was raised. Also, tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
So now we recognize that that whole world is in fact broken, and it's not our job to fix it. Our job is to get out of it completely and to get into a world that's not competitive and into a world that's cooperative, where everything's all right. We can be friends. We don't have to be enemies unless we choose to be consciously. But we got to get out of the habit of it rather than just that's the automatic. And so this is also a kind of a way of learning to deal with other people. Is that if you don't have this attitude of everything's all right, how are they going to pick it up from you?
Yeah.
So that's why we keep coming back to everything is all right. And so the number one job is sati, to remember, that's the big one. If you can't remember to be happy, then it's going to be a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But if you remember to keep coming back to this gladdening of the mind from the Buddha, everything's okay. Or in the beginning, it would be, aha, I see you, Mara. Aha, I see it. I see that stuff. I see that I'm making a mess for my own mind by making plans. When right now, everything's okay. And so now I come back and I say, yeah, that's right. Everything's okay. Everything's fine. This present moment is good enough. And it's powerful, as Eckhart Tolle says.
Power of now.
Power of now.
I need to get off to bed soon here.
All right. Well, I think that we've gotten something accomplished today.
I think we have too.
To change your attitude that meditation is the practice of not practicing anymore. Not the way that you used to practice meditation, wanting
like
something out of it.
Yeah. So it's not a separate entity.
All right, Conor, I'm really glad to see you again.
Yes, thank you for the time. As always, I'm always very appreciative. Talk soon.
See you soon.